everyone, welcome to today's session. Today we are going to see what are the different styles in technical English and what are the barriers of technical communication or what are the barriers of communication in general. So come, let's see what are the barriers and what are the different what are come let's see what are the different styles and barriers of technical communication. Different styles. When it comes to style, a style is a way of writing. A style is a way of writing like brevity, clarity, objectivity, simple usage of word, diction and choice of word. These are the examples of styles. So let's see what are the different styles in technical English or technical writing. Where technical writings are used to communicate through research papers or through websites or at the back of a product or in an organization. Everything involves technical English. So in order to have effective technical communication skills, you should have you should have the suitable technical style. What are the technical style? They are brevity, clarity and objectivity. This is the prior important style that everybody should follow. This is actually why we should be very brief and very clear and aim oriented in technical English. Is in technical English we don't entertain people, we only inform, we educate people. So it should the aim of technical writing is to inform rather than to entertain. So it should always be clear and precise and should talk only about the aim, the objectivity. Hence the style of writing opted for technical writing is simple and concise, very clear. So the use of simple language, you should use only simple language in technical English. The first step towards a simple and clear style is to use simple language. The more your actually technical subject, they themselves are very complicated. If you want to make the audience understand the topic that you are talking about, you should opt for simple language. Otherwise it will become very difficult for the audience to grasp what you are getting at. So you should, if you use simple language, this is the main tool where you can help your audience to understand this topic. So you should always go for simple language. The choice of word, of course, when you go for simple language, go for simple words. Through proper choice of word, through readability and clarity, the message is achieved and the message is received by the audience as it is said. So the choice of word should not be very complicated. If it is complicated, sometimes it may lead to misconception. But if the message is very clear and very simple, it can be understood by the audience very easily. So you should go for simple language and simple word choice. The next one is concrete words. What are concrete words? Concrete words are the words that you can see, touch and feel. If you go for abstract words, the expression that contain abstract nouns are less forceful, less direct and lesser exact than their concrete counterparts. So you should not go for abstract noun. What is this abstract noun? Abstract noun is a thing that you cannot see or touch, you can only feel it. Usually when you want to explain a complicated subject to a greater group of to a large group of audience, then you should go for picturization. But in the case of abstract noun, you cannot see them, you cannot touch them, then you cannot go for a picturization there. So it is very very important to maximum go for concrete words, go for concrete nouns in order to make the subject very clear and simple. So try to avoid abstract nouns, try to involve maximum concrete nouns, concrete words in your style. Next one is avoid verbosity, wordiness. Unnecessary and bombastic language should be avoided. Nobody is here to appreciate your verbosity here. Everybody is want to learn something or to want to be educated by you. So avoid verbosity in order to make the message very clear without any hindrance or barrier. So long-winded phrase should be avoided in your technical communication. And the next one is discreet use of jargons. Of course, there is no technical communication without technical jargons. But when the jargons are aimed at wider audience, the audience whom are not technically involved, who don't have the knowledge of a particular technology, then your communication is wide. Your communication is of no use. So you should be very discreet in using this jargon, where to use and whom to use, whom it should be taught. Technical terms become jargon only when they are carelessly used for wider audience. Avoid colloquial diction. For example, this is mostly used in fiction as conversational lies, so public style or scientific reporting, colloquial diction is not desirable. So avoid this is used in novels or dramas in order to have conversational lines. But this is public style. But in reporting or in journals or in research papers, you should avoid colloquial lines. You should go for formal one. Now let's move on to the next one, that is avoid cliche. What is this cliche? This cliche is old expressions. This cliche is old expressions. Most of the time cliche is trite. What is this trite? Is a fake identity. It loses your originality. Cliche is an old expression, but in modern days it loses its originality and it is misunderstood and misinterpreted. So at the maximum, try to avoid any cliche or stereotyped again old ones. So try to avoid this. Overused expression or combination of words should be avoided in technical style. Use of the passive voice. So try to avoid, at the maximum, try to avoid the use of passive voice, because passive voice is indirectly referring the doer, and the subject is the receiver of the action rather than the doer of it. So it is not a straight way of saying something or stating something. Passive voice is employed by the writers when they want to evade the or conceal the responsibility of someone's behavior. Especially passive voice is used in order to apologize or in order to show that somebody's mistake. This is where passive voice is used most of the times. So in technical writing it is better to avoid passive voice. What are the barriers of communication? What are the barriers of technical communication? What is a barrier first? If a communication is interrupted and destroyed by something, this is called barrier of communication. Whatever is disturbing the communication, it is called communication barrier. So what is the first barrier? That is language barrier. Lack of language knowledge is the first barrier of effective communication. And next comes, if you don't understand the language, obviously you lack interest in it, you don't get anything, so you lack attention, interest, and you are being distracted. So you should avoid language barrier. Next one is psychological barrier. What is the psychological barrier? The psychological state of the receiver will influence how the message is received. For example, when the speaker is communicating while the receiver is affected by a personal issue, then he cannot completely receive the message. So the communication is not effective in between them. Take for example sadness, happiness, or angry. In this kind of situation, the communication is affected. Next one is physical disability like hearing problems, speech difficulties affects the flow of effective communication. Next one is perspective barrier. What is this perspective barrier? When both the speaker and the receiver have different opinion, it disturbs their communication. The communication is not effective because when the speaker speaks something, the receiver is thinking some other thing. So here, obviously the communication is not effective. Information overloaded. When an information is overloaded, again the receiver is not in a position to receive whatever is aimed at. So information overloaded is again considered as a barrier of communication. Inattention. Inattention is the way is the prior thing for lack of communication or misunderstanding. So inattention should be avoided. Cultural barriers. Some messages can be considered very offensive in other area or other culture. So cultural barriers should be avoided. So before a speaker speaks or communicates something, he should try to avoid the things which are culturally offensive to the receivers. Interpersonal barriers. If the speaker lacks interpersonal skill, then it becomes an interpersonal barrier. Interpersonal barriers. What are these interpersonal barriers? When the speaker lacks of knowledge what he is speaking about, or when the speaker lacks certain values, then it becomes interpersonal. Or if his name is spoiled by certain things, then it becomes an interpersonal barrier. And how to overcome communication barrier? How to overcome it? Identify the problem first and then try to figure it out. If you can't try to figure it out, go for alternative solutions. So if you want to go for the alternate solution, prefer the best solution. Go for the best solutions, best second choice of solution, and then follow all these steps rigorously without any failure. And certain things that you have to focus in order to improve your communication is, in order to avoid barriers of communication, is the purpose. The predominant purpose of the message should be kept in mind. If the receiver is inattentive, if the receiver lacks interest in your message, it means that you are diverting from one point to another point. So you should be clear with your goal and purpose. Next one is appropriate language. If you don't use appropriate language or the language understood by the receiver, then again your communication is a waste, is void. So you should use, a major part of discussion is the result of appropriate language. So use appropriate language. Listening skills. Good listening skills help in reducing the extra effort by the center to reach the desired objectives. So you should enhance the good listening skills in order to improve your communication skills. Be sensitive. While conveying a message, be polite. If you are not polite, then it will be considered as you are very rude. When you are very rude, nobody is ready to listen to you. So you should be very sensitive when you communicate a message. Next one is clarity. Of course, clarity is the best thing that you need to focus on in an effective communication. Poor communication is a result of lack of clarity. So you should concentrate on clarity. And the next one is avoid perception. Avoid perception. Before conveying something, do not pre-assume something and communicate. That will lead to extra conflicts. So you should have mutual trust between the sender and the receiver. This will help knowing and reducing the perception errors. And the next one is use channel. If your channel is not helping your communication, then go for the suitable and clearer channel. Try to avoid background noise and any disturbance in order to make your communication very effective. Now I hope that I have explained the different styles of communication, what are the barriers of communication, and how can you overcome the barriers of communication in this module. If you have any doubt regarding this, please come back to me. Thank you so much for watching this. Thank you.